Hello everyone. Today we are gonna be solving another lab from PortSwigger. So let's start. This lab is about listing the database contents on non-Oracle databases. This lab contains an SQL injection vulnerability in the product category filter. The results from the query are returned in the application response, so you can use a union attack to retrieve data from other tables. The application has a login function, and the database contains a table that holds username and password. So we are not getting any name of the table in this case. So we have to keep an eye with that. You need to determine the name of this table and the columns it contains. Then retrieve the contents of the table to obtain the username and password of all users. So this is basically that we have to log as an administrator. So let's try to open the lab and remember to get ready your environment. Remember that we are gonna be using PortSwigger and the proxy right now. Okay, we are gonna be using the some payloads that we used before. So let's see. Okay, we have already this, and the lab is asking us for to log in as the administrator. So let's try the payload that we did at the beginning. Well, the first video that we did, that is a quote space or one equal one and this lines and a password. So that didn't work. And let's try here with the quote to see if this is vulnerable. Mm, okay, let me try better here. Okay, with the quote here, and look, we got an internal server error. So let's start with the steps. Remember, the first step is to know if the website have SQL injection vulnerability, and then we have to turn on the proxy. Let's try to turn on the interception in the proxy part, and let's try to go to any of the categories. Okay, we are already here. Let's send it to the repeater as usual. And okay, and we can start working from here. So the very first step that we should take here to can know the information that the laboratory is asking for us, we have to follow the same steps that we followed in the last videos. So remember that the first thing that we have to do is to know how many columns do we have in this part. So to can know that, we can use an order by payload, so we can know how many columns do we have here, right? So let's try with the first one, and we got a 200 response. That is in okay. Let's try with the second one. Okay, that is okay. We have two columns here, and let's try with the third one. Well, that gave us an internal server error, right? So we are gonna be working with two columns. So let's try to, and now the next step is to know if we have an string data and any of the two columns that we have here, yeah. But to can know that, we need to do something here that is a remember the union attack. We are gonna be using the union here also to can know if the two columns have a string. So we use union plus select, and let's try with something like abc abs dot null, well, null plus this. Okay, let's see. Yeah, that is giving us 200. Let's try the second one. Oh yeah, that means that both columns are a string. So we can start from there. So what is the next step here? We already know how many columns do we have. We already know if the columns have strings. So the next step is to know what is the database that we are trying to look for. Yeah. But to can know what is the database, remember that before we use this payload, this one that is a add version. But remember that that is only for Microsoft and MySQL. So we also have PortSwigger and Oracle. Let's try to check these things. That is the SQL injection cheat sheet. So we can know the information about how we can find the databases. So here, okay, here is this. Okay, let me check. Well, it's this one. So here we have a how we can find the database version and Oracle, Microsoft Postgres, and MySQL. So let's check first MySQL and Microsoft. That is the same one. Let's see here. Let's check like both columns are a string. It doesn't matter where we locate that part. And remember, you always have to do something here that is control U. Okay, you have to do a control U, and that will give you the correct code. Let's try to run. Oh well, that is giving us an internal server error. So let's try with another one. Let's try with the. Remember that Oracle is not the database that we are looking for because this is for non-Oracle. So we are gonna be using the version that is from Postgres. Let's check in the same part. Okay, that is giving us a 200 code. That means that that is okay. So this is the one of the steps that obviously you have to follow. Look that here in the render that we have the Postgres SQL database. So what is the next step? Remember that the laboratory didn't give us any information about the table name, the name of the table, the name of the user, the name of the password, or what are the columns that we have to look for, what are the tables that we have to look for. So we have to do that by our own. And to can do that, we can look something, if there is something that is an schema. An schema is like a table that contains all the tables that we have in our database. So let's try to look for that in the direct documentation from Postgres. So find table that contains the name of all the tables. Postgres. Okay, let's try to check in Stack Overflow directly. Okay, so here we have some information that is this one. This show to be the schema that we need information a schema that tables. So let's try to use this one to see if we got the information about the table name. Okay, so let's try to check here. Obviously, you are gonna put here a table name, table name, and here you are gonna add this part that is from information schema tables, right? And a control loop. Okay, perfect. Let's try to check if we found any information about this right now. Let's see. Okay, we got it to 100. And let's see in the render. Yeah, we got all the information about the tables that we are using. So let's try to find the tables that contain user. For that, we can look for these users, user, this one. These have random letters, but we can work with this. So let's copy this and we can look into the table. We already have what is the table name. So now we can look for the column. In the columns, we are gonna find what is the use where we can find the username and the password, right? So let's try to look for here. Now we are gonna be looking for column name from the table that we already found. That is in this case user DYWAT. Let's try to look for that. Well, we got an internal server, so maybe something is going on here. For that, we can be using. Okay, remember, we have to put here table name because this is we are getting this from the table from the schema. So the table name will be equal to this part. Let's try to look for that right now. Well, we are still getting a 500 code error. So let's check here. Maybe there is something going on. Let's try to look for that error here. Okay, and now I found that we can use the same code. So let's try to look for that here. Remember that we use here this part, that is the information schema, and we can use a filter. So that will not be from the table name, that will be from the information schema dot columns with an S at the end. And we can use the word filter to can find the columns where the table name will be equal to this one. So let's try to look for that. Okay, we got a 200 code. That means that that is okay. And let's try to find. Okay, here we have what is the name and yeah, what is the name of the columns that we have. So with this, we can easily change this for this here, this part here, and then this part here. Okay, and then we can use directly in this part. We can get this directly from the table name. So let's try to delete all this part and let's try to run that. Let's see. Okay, we got a 200 code and let's try to look for here. Look, we got it. We have already the username, that is the administrator, and this is the password, right? So let's try to check directly here with the password. Let's try to turn off the proxy. Let's try to go to my account. Let's put here an administrator and the password. Perfect. We already solved the lab with the and we already log as administrator. So remember to follow the steps. Eh, First is to know if the site is vulnerable to get into SQL injection. Then you have to check how many columns do we have. If the columns are strings, what is the version of the database? You have to look according to the version of the database. You have to look into what are the table names and what are the columns names, and then you can find the information about the username and the password. So this is the end of this video. I'll see you in another one. Bye bye.